Welcome back. I am your host, Attorney Steven Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM560 The Answer. I'm joined today with Deborah Schreiner and Jim Leahy, and we're here to inform and entertain.
That's right, inform and entertain. Now, if we're not informing you on the subject that you want to be informed on, remember, call Opem Tax Resolution, 312-664-6649. Go to chicagotaxteam.com. You can watch old videos. You can go to blog reports. It's a great tool to get. It is your hub, but it's a great tool to get back on track for financial success. Also, too, there's other avenues as well. Facebook. Get out there and let's fix your problem.
That's right. Very good advice, Jim.
I love it.
Let's do this.
Go right in the next segment. It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
I paused there for effect.
It was a great pause.
And what's the name of the
Park Street?
Park.
We always Park Avenue beat.
I'm trying to remember.
Park Avenue beat.
Jim wins all the points.
Is that okay? So
because you're going to do this for the next 2
until
months.
I get,
what is it? What is it?
I'm trying to remember it. I didn't remember it. That's why I asked. So after a couple of weeks, I'll remember.
Talk about things you remember, like 1099-Cs.
Okay, so this segment of the show, I always talk about things that are happening in my office, right? And we're coming to the April 17th deadline of filing your tax return. So guess what? I'm getting a lot of calls about tax returns. We are so crowded. We have a queue of people that we need to do their taxes.
How crowded are you? How many cookies have you gone through?
Oh, lots of cookies. That's true. It's true. And so the queue is very long about getting people and their tax returns.
I always thought it was queue.
I've gotten a lot of people. Or whatever.
Way.
Yeah. I got a lot of people that have come to me in the last week or 2 weeks who owe multiple years, and that's common. But one of the things is, when you owe multiple, say you owe for 2014 and you have a tax return coming, you have to get that filed before April 17th, or you won't get your tax refund. Right? Because if you have a refund coming, you won't get the refund. So it puts a lot of pressure on us to get that done on time. Now, early in the season, I was offering a half price, but I'm not anymore because we got a big queue. We won't be able to do it.
No more half price.
Can't get it. Can't do it. And so now you have to pay a premium. Actually, I don't even know if I could do it now with the premium or not. But anyway, the calls I'm getting also involve this 1099-C. And the reason why I get a lot of calls about 1099-C is because I've written about it. I've got blog segments. We've got other YouTube videos about it. So people find me when they Google 1099-C because there's so much confusion about it. And so I get a lot. I am the resident. I don't want to say I'm an expert because I'm not allowed to call myself an expert in Illinois law, but I know a lot about it. Okay. And I have written extensively and we've done these videos. Okay. So I get a lot of people call me. So I had one person call me. One thing that's happening throughout the nation is taxi cab medallions are not as worth as much as they used to be. Okay. So
yeah.
Okay. So there are people like in New York, Chicago, and other municipalities where these medallions were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Really?
Yes. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now they're not worth hundreds of thousands. Kind of like
Why are they worth hundreds of thousands?
Because it's a monopoly. Right, you can't have a cab in Chicago or New York without a medallion, and so because there was a monopoly, they were worth a lot of money. Kind of like a board seat at the Chicago Board of Exchange. Right, they used to be worth a ton of money because only they could trade stocks. When they put it on the internet and everybody could trade, well, those seats fell in value from hundreds of thousands of dollars to almost worthless. I wouldn't say they're worthless, but they're not worth the big money they used to be.
They're not worth what they used to be.
And same thing with cabs, and that's because of the Lyft and Uber, right? That they've affected their business, and so people. I saw an article. A lot of people are in New York are committing suicide because their business has folded. But what's happening is there's a lot of these loans out there because people would use these medallions as a secured loan. So companies were out there that would would loan you money based on the value of that medallion. And again, if they were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, they would loan you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And now, not only isn't the medallion worth anything, but the people who own them aren't really making any money to pay them, to pay back. And so there's lots of litigation throughout the nation about cab drivers who are facing these issues. And we're talking about 1099-Cs. Now, you know that 1099-Cs are taxable unless there's an exception. And there's certain exceptions. Last week we talked about on the Mr. Know-It-All segment about that they reinstated the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act, right? So now you can, if you have a 1099-C, if you gave up your house through a short sale or foreclosure and they forgave some debt, you don't have to pay taxes on there. There's an exception to that. The other two exceptions. One is bankruptcy. So if you file for protection under the bankruptcy laws and your debt is forgiven, it's actually not forgiven, it's discharged in bankruptcy. Means that even if they don't forgive it, they can't come after you anyway. But sometimes companies will send you a 1099-C and you have filed for protection under the bankruptcy laws. That's what they call Title 11 on the form. There's a form, it's called 982, and that form 982 lists these reasons why you don't have to pay tax on this 1099-C. Okay? And so another reason why, but bankruptcy is huge. And in this kind of case, right? So the person who called, the driver, the man who ran, they owned 3 taxis and they owned over $800,000 in debt. Okay, and they're being sued. His wife made over $200,000 in income. Okay, so they're going to get some money from her.
Yeah,
right?
It's substantial.
And if you're making over that if you're making more than the mean, remember, then they don't want you to file a Chapter 7 for consumer debt. But here's the catch in this. That's not consumer debt. That's a business debt. And so you might be able to file a Chapter 7, even if somebody tells you can't. You might be able to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy to get rid of that debt.
How do I know if I can or I can't?
Well, that's why you got to call me, because every case is different, and we can review it. Now, before I go into that, because I don't really, this wasn't really a Chapter 7 or bankruptcy segment, but the third thing you can do to avoid paying taxes on a 1099-C is if you can prove to the IRS that you're technically insolvent at the time the debt was forgiven, then you also there's an exception, and there's a worksheet, and it gets pretty complicated. I'm
sure. Well, no, our tax system's complicated.
Oh, I told you last week. I told you the story about the guy from Ireland who.
You know what's funny?
He was shocked at our system.
When you brought that up, I read an article talking about that.
Yeah.
That's what's funny. I'm like, I knew that.
Yeah, it's because nobody else in the world.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners have the same thing too.
So, but anyway, it's a complicated calculation to see if you are technically insolvent at the time that your debt is forgiven by your creditor, then you can avoid paying taxes. Or to the extent you are insolvent. So sometimes you have to pay tax on some of the money, but not all of the money. And that's what this calculation does. So what do I always tell people? If you get a 1099-C, some people will put it in a drawer and say, well, that's nice. But they don't report it. And then you're just asking for an audit because the IRS has that 1099-C. They're going to look to see if you've accounted for it on your tax return. And if you haven't, they're going to do it for you. They're going to add it to your taxable income.
Don't worry about it. We entered that for you.
That's
so
right.
You didn't forget.
As I always tell people, when the IRS does it for you, it's not a service, it's a penalty, right? So they're going to assess a big tax against you. So again, if you have a 1099-C, you have a question, call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. I will answer your question, and we'll figure it out if you can get into one of those 3 exceptions.
That's what's great about having Attorney Steven Leahy on your side. He's going to go through and make sure maybe you qualify for this situation. Not a lot of people are going to do that. They're just going to push it right under the rug.
That's right.
Hey, you don't qualify for it. That's what Opem Tax Resolution does for you. 312-664-6649 or visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. It's going to be your hub to fight the IRS. Now, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because we have more IRS Radio Hour on the way. We got a great show lined up for you. If you missed that segment, go on YouTube. You can look up the video. We're going to have the blog segments. Go on ChicagoTaxTeam.com. It's a great little tool to help get you back on track for financial success. Stay tuned because after the commercial break, more IRS Radio Hour here on AM560 The Answer.